Hello and welcome to Hey Clarity. I'm your host Lindsay, and today we are opening the Akashic Records on narcissism. So this is N week of the alphabet superset, and in the poll, narcissism was in the running all week. And then it tied today with the nervous system, but I had already put together the questions for narcissism. So we're doing the Akashic Records on narcissism. So the questions that we're going to ask are: foundational question, what is narcissism? What is the root cause of it? How does it affect us individually and collectively? Why does it seem particularly prevalent now? How can we prevent it? What are the easiest ways to spot it? Like, what are the signs? Maybe things that we wouldn't expect. How can we heal from it for the narcissist or for those, let's just say, like harmed by the narcissist? And then last question, what's the most important message we need to know about narcissism? So let's get into it. First question, we are in the Akashic Records of Narcissism now. I opened the records prior to hitting record. It was actually really funny because like the very first thing that just kind of flew through, even in saying the opening records prayer, I just got me. It was like M-E exclamation point. Okay, so that made me chuckle. So what is narcissism? They're saying like one, solely, like soul focused, S-O-L-E, soul focused. Centered. It's like, it is the belief that like the world like revolves around, like someone's belief system that the world revolves around them. I'm getting like the idea like I am like, this is my kingdom, like this is my universe, this is my world. And it's this like almost like king, queen, like royalty kind of like they're saying like internal belief system that like the world is mine and everything in it is for me. So it's centered, like centered in the universe, and like kind of only seeing themselves and almost like everything serving them or like meant to serve them, like all of the people. There's this idea of like less than, like I'm getting like less, like their role is a lesser than role in this person's, in a narcissist's mind. And it's about, they're kind of saying like servants of service. Interesting. Let's see if there's anything else. What is narcissism? They're saying like one circle. Like the focus is in like this like immediate environment, this immediate circle, one circle around the person. And it's almost like the perspective of the narcissist is they're believing like I am in the center, like this is the orbit around me. Anything that steps into my orbit is for me, is mine. And I'm getting there's like a deep belief system of that. So it's like if you pop into this person's life, it's almost like, gotcha, like you're mine. Anything else? What is narcissism? That's it. One, solely, centered. Okay. What is the root cause of narcissism? They're saying familiar, parental familiars. It's taught and learned, it's observed. It's fed, like it's fed. Like they're almost showing like a little prince, and like their parents are like serving them in such a way that they like have control of their like parental figures. But I'm getting like, it's like I'm seeing like one parent is kind of like the servant, and then the other one is also very like royal. So they're learning that one parent is like the narcissist that they're learning from, and then the other one, like they're seeing a dynamic in their parental figures. It's familiar. It's like whoever, but they're saying like a main perspective would be learning it from parental figures, but it could be other like regular familiar characters that play in their life. They witness the dynamic, they observe the dynamic, and they see that it works. So I'm getting like embodiment. They have the embodiment of it, of like, oh, cool. Like I see that person getting everything they want, everything they need by doing that. And when they do that, they get that from that person. So they witness the dynamic and they're like, duh, like, of course I'm going to do that because I get everything I want. I get everything I need. I get all of my desires. So they're saying it's witnessed and it's observed in familiar or parental figures. But they're showing like within a family dynamic, it could be lots of different figures, characters. So it could be like another child and a parent. It could be like grandparents or uncles and aunts. I'm just seeing like different figures, but it's a very strong dynamic. It stands out. So they're saying like this type of dynamic, the power struggle of this dynamic, the power of the dynamic is so strong and prominent that like if it's seen within a family system, it just stands out. It stands out over the others because I'm getting the others are like balanced. There's like kind of this like flow of like a reciprocity and like giving and receiving, and it's like there's like a flow to it, right? But then the dynamic of like I'm getting like a narcissist, and then they're saying like an empathic person. They're saying this is like the common personality dynamic. That dynamic is so, I'm getting like there's like gravitation towards it, like witnessing it because it stands out, because I'm getting like it's aggressive and it's oppressive, and just the force behind that power struggle almost like calls for attention. So a little one, a younger person, someone who's developing, their brain is developing, they're saying they see that force, right? And at that stage, it's neutral. Like there's not like a right, wrong doing. There's just, they feel the force of that power struggle, of that power dynamic. And so it's like very easily learned. How does narcissism affect us individually? They just said heartache, struggle, power struggles, low self-esteem, self-doubt, nervous, anxiety, depression, like held down, held back. I'm feeling like this is for the oppressed person of the dynamic, just to be clear, that's what I'm saying. How does it affect us individually? They're saying it's like, it's this learned oppression, like understanding power struggles and oppression. And they're showing like under the thumb of someone, squish. And like that's what it does to someone. So I'm also kind of curious, let's get the narcissistic perspective. How does it affect the narcissistic individual? How does it affect the narcissistic individual? They're like power dominant. Like the individual is like I got away with this. Like I get away with this. I can get away with this here. I can get away with it there. I have a track record of getting away with it. Historically, I get away with this behavior. So the individual is like, they feel powerful. They feel empowered because they get away with it. So then collectively, how does narcissism affect us? They're actually saying wars and violence. Like they're saying it's like a seed. These are like seeds of impact. This desire for power, for domination, has its seeds in these like parental familiar figures who believe in dominating in power struggles. And I'm getting like at all costs. How does it affect us collectively? One more time. How does narcissism affect us collectively? They're just saying like wars, violence, abusive parental figures, creating abusive generational cycles of abuse. And they're showing like the different levels of it. Oh, it's like the mental and emotional abuse. Then they're showing someone hitting someone, and then they're like, it goes into the physical abuse. It's like, this is like power struggles, these abusive reactions, these abusive, they're saying oppressions. And they're just saying like, get away with it. Like, people get away with this. I'm gonna also ask why. So why? Like, why are they getting away with it? They're kind of showing like no one bigger is like stomping on them. It's like, okay, like you have this little bratty person, kid grow into an adult, and they have all these people under their thumb. And then they're showing, well, something bigger steps on them and crushes them. Like a whole foot, a boot comes down and squashes them. And what they're saying is, there's actually a karmic cycle of like this behavior. If you keep creating these like little oppressions, these little abuses, and you keep stuffing all these people down under your thumb, you're creating this like big force of like oppression. And karmically, like cyclically, you're gonna get like all those little oppressions are gonna turn into this big fat boot that's gonna go and squash you. So they're kind of like, you're kind of asking for like, they're saying like opening a can of whoop ass on you karmically as a narcissist, like within like one lifetime or like over lifetimes. Like this behavior is asking for like, it's so, you're gonna get nailed so much worse than like putting people under your thumb. They're calling it like like the cosmic boot. Like you get the cosmic squish. This cosmic like can of whoop ass gets like unleashed on you and like squishes you back down, you know, so that you get this taste of like what you've created in other people. That's kind of funny. Why does narcissism seem particularly prevalent now? They just say we're looking at it. It's not more prevalent. It's not more prevalent, but like I'm getting like studying research, like we're paying attention, we're calling it out. There is so much of it, and they're kind of saying like always has been. It's just not something that we like categorized or studied or did research on. They're kind of just like, you would just be like, oh, that person's an asshole, that person's a dick. Like you would just kind of like curse. They're saying like curses. You would put curses on these people. Like cursing at these people. It's kind of funny that that's the choice of words. Curses on these people. So the feeling you feel, the energy that they onto you, that a narcissist would onto you, you understand, like you feel the feeling, right? And it turns into these words and it's like, wow, well, you're a dick, you know, you're an asshole. And that gets shot right back at them. So it's like the curse they put on you, you say something, it gets put back on them. There's this weird thing that happens with the cursing. And they're saying you get caught up in these karmic cycles because this dynamic is about like power struggles and trying to find balance in a power struggle. They're like, it's very like difficult decisions, difficult cause and effect. You can feel a lot of stagnancy in these connections. Like these bonds are very stagnant, very heavy, very weighted. But then also there's that like aloofness, right? So they're showing how like when we're attached by like cords, sometimes there's like, you have this nice like balanced cord with somebody where there's like a nice give and take. And then it's just the power struggle of a cord between a narcissist and somebody else is so just like, it's either like, come here, like they're bringing you in like tight cord, or they're just like, whatever, I don't care. Like there's this like aloofness and almost like the lack of consistency on the chord is just like bothersome. So they want to really like simplify like the energy of that dynamic, but that it's all about power struggles and just like very uncomfortable power struggles that have like a spectrum of abuse, right? So it's like, you know, mental, emotional, physical abuse, violence, wars, and then like generational cycles of this. So it's not particularly new. It's just there's more studying and research on it and categorizing it and giving it a name. How can we prevent narcissism? How can we prevent narcissism? They just said, like, try to be nicer people. Just try to be nicer people. And it's especially hard for someone who has been categorized as a narcissist. Like, you have to work extra hard to kind of catch your conditioning and do something different. They're like, it's a stretch. Like, it's a stretch for someone where it's like really ingrained and like they've really accepted like the embodiment of that dynamic, the force of that. Like it's like they really like they got a thrill, like they really got off on seeing the dynamic, and so that's why they were like, cool, like I can have control of people. Like I can do all these things. Like they get off on the control, they get off on the power and the thrill. So it's not really like it's not really desirable to like give up that power once they have it. You know, they're kind of like boredom, and like they might have fun playing these games. And they're kind of saying like life is a game. Life is a game, and like more of a game between people for them. So they may see these, yeah, power plays, you know, playing roles, these dynamics, the power struggles. And I'm seeing them like, you know, trying to test out like the opposite role of them. And they're just like, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to give somebody anything they want. Like, hell no. Like, you serve me, you give me what I want. And if you don't, I'll go find somebody who will. Like, this is the attitude of like what they're showing me. It's so funny. So how can we prevent it? They're just like, be nicer people and like work through it. So let's see, anything else? They're kind of saying like the knowledge around it is like offering a lot of reflection, but it's deeper than that. So it's like they're showing someone having like a really like lavish, rich life where they have everything they need, everything they want, like whenever they want, like someone who's got a lot of money, very abundantly wealthy. And they're like, do you think that person will like willingly give up everything that they have? And they're like, it depends. You know, it depends on how miserable their life becomes. So I'm getting like, if a narcissist becomes like super isolated and like left alone, like with themselves, like I'm getting like they don't see, like there's no one in their kingdom to serve them. Like there's no one there to like satisfy their needs and their wants and their desires. And it's kind of only then will they realize maybe I'm a dick and maybe I need to be a nicer human being. Maybe I need to figure this out. But they're kind of like, that's not usually the case, like in one lifetime. Like it's not like there's a lot of like mental and emotional like breakthroughs and like work that needs to be done. And again, it's really hard to want to give up that power, the luxury of being on top of a power struggle. It's really hard to want, like, why would they want to give it up? Like they can't fathom, it's like unfathomable to like give up power. Very hard. So the preventing of it is they're showing like the family system and like, you know, not indulging in power struggles, like having more of a balanced like give and take understanding. They're saying like to be understood, like having parents like understand and want to be understood. There's communication, but there's like more of an equality in the dynamic. And so it has to kind of happen early on. It's almost like if parents have this dynamic and their kids are growing up and they witness the dynamic and they see it early, it's almost too late later in life for that child to grow up. If their parents get therapy and work through it and start to like have these breakthroughs and breakdowns of the power struggle, the dynamic, if they work through it and they can come into like a more equal, balanced give and take, that light is so funny, then just because the parents get better doesn't mean that the kid can change, because they've kind of been born into that. So they're saying like, don't like, no expectations that it can necessarily be something that's done like later in life. It kind of has to be caught early. They're saying like early childhood is when it has to like either not happen at all, or like, something else needs to be taught. Okay. What are the easiest ways to spot narcissism? What are the signs? What are the easiest ways? What are the easiest ways to spot narcissism? They just said like the way that you're being looked at. Like listening. Like, are you being listened to? Are they looking at you? It's like I'm sitting in front, they're showing like as if I'm sitting at a table with someone who's categorized as a narcissist. And we're having a conversation and they're like, I'm speaking. Like they ask me a question and I'm speaking. And their attention is like, oh yeah, yeah. Like I'm speaking, like they ask me something, I'm sharing, I'm talking to them. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. Like, oh, whatever you're saying is not really important. Like, yeah, yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening. So like the attention span, like there's no attention on you. It's like if the spotlight is on you, they'll look away. Because it's like, oh. And then you ask them a question and they're like, they perk up and they're like, oh. And they start performing, right? If the attention is not on them, they like don't care. Huh? Oh yeah, she's talking, but I'm not. Let's see, is anyone else paying attention? Like, it's like, is anyone else in the room looking at me? Like this person's talking right now. So is there someone else in the restaurant that's like looking at me? And like you might catch them like look at someone and smile or like wink or something because they're looking for someone to be looking at them. This is so funny. Oh man. So there's an eye contact thing. They're kind of like within your first meeting with someone, the first impression, like the first date, whatever your situation is, if you've got the mic, if it's your turn to speak and they have zero attention for you, that's it. They're like, that's your signal. That's your like first warning sign. Very easy, they said. It's the easiest way to spot it. They don't have the engagement, they have a lack of attention for someone else having a mic, like someone else being the focus point. They cannot at all. They're saying boredom, like, it's not me, and I don't care. Okay. How can we heal from narcissism? For the narcissist, let's go on the first side. I think they already kind of addressed this, but let's try more directly. How can a narcissist heal from narcissism? They just said self-reflection. Not impossible. Very likely at the point of being isolated. So I'm kind of saying it requires like being shunned. Like they're kind of saying like, if you want to nail a narcissist, like everybody in their life needs to turn their back on them. Like everybody needs to be on board, be like, fuck this person. That's what they're saying. Everyone has to turn that. They can't have anybody. Everyone's back has to be them because they can't stand it. No one's looking at me. No one's paying attention to me. No one's here for the performance. Everyone has their back on me. So I'm getting like, there's going to be like sadness and like, there's like a little kid kind of throwing tantrums and like threatening. They're saying like outlandish stuff. Like they might threaten really serious things, like serious actions. And they're kind of saying like, are they saying like, don't believe it, believe it? They're saying you can believe it. Like they really, like what they're saying, they might truly feel and believe. because they're not used to that experience. And so they're like losing their mind. They like lose their shit when everybody ignores them. And so I'm getting like they could have these drops into like severe depression and like suicidal ideations because they do not know what to do with themselves. If nobody is giving them attention, if nobody seems to care about them, if they don't have anyone to perform for. So they're kind of showing everyone with their backs to them and then being left with like professionals, like a therapist, psychotherapist. I'm getting like cognitive behavioral therapist, like almost like letting the professionals help them work through it. Because I'm getting like, there's been so much like damage in like the everyday relationships. So it's like a harsh choice for everyone to turn their back on them. But it kind of like, there's no willingness to look at themselves, to have the breakdown, the breakthrough, and the change until they get to that point. And it's risky because how they're feeling, what they're saying, yes, it could be manipulative, but it's also like a true feeling. They very deeply might feel that they can't live without the performance and without the attention on them. So I'm getting like those threats, like take them seriously, but I'm getting like you turn them to a professional. And it's like, I can't be your friend because this relationship is damaged, but I care about you. And so I'm going to refer you. I'm going to find someone, or I'm going to ask around. We're going to find you a professional. And you're going to talk to that person. And I'm getting like, depending on the progress that they make, maybe you come back into their life. But unfortunately, like it requires like a whole team to both shun and get them in that place of like, oh shit, like something's not right. But then also a whole team of professionals to help them through it, help them work through it. And it's like, that's not usually the case. Like, they might lose a lot of people in their life, but they don't lose everybody. They're kind of saying they're too manipulative to lose everybody. They're kind of like, they cherry pick like the easy picks. They've got their low hanging fruit. They've got the fruit on the ground that's already like damaged and rotten and eaten, like almost like, so they're showing like a tree with fruit. Like, I'm gonna bite this one bite, throw it away. I'm gonna bite this apple, one bite, throw it away. I'm gonna bite this, I'm gonna bite that. And like biting all these apples, but like not finishing them, not like having like long-lasting, long-term like enjoyment of the connection or the relationship, and throwing them on the ground. So like they pick up all the apples and there's no more apples to pick. Then all they have is this rotten fruit on the ground. So they'll then go and reach back down for the fruit on the ground that they half bit and that's rotting. And they might try and eat it again, but it's rotten because they like picked it. I'm getting like too early. They bit it and they threw it on the ground. Like they almost don't want you after they've like run through you because they've damaged you and they don't want you. Like this is really fucked up, but that's what I'm getting. It's like, so I'm getting like for the other person's sake, if they've like run through your life and like fucked up your life, you really don't want them coming back into it because they look at you as less than. There's no equality because they were able to get away with all the shit they got away with. And they have, I'm getting like decreased your value because they got away with it. Gosh, this is pretty thorough. So yeah, you really don't want to get back in that. I'm getting like ever. Because you're already like rotten on the ground, right? Symbolically. And it's better for you to like, there's like, they're showing like your healing. Okay, so this is going to the abused of a narcissistic relationship. So if you're the bitten, half-eaten, rotten fruit on the ground, the experience of you getting plucked and beaten and thrown to the ground, eaten and thrown to the ground, maybe both. I'm I'm seeing that like the whole experience for you needs to like decompose. So you need to shed the entire experience. You need to go through such a rebirth, such a healing process. Really like let the parts of you that got the parts of you that were oppressed, the parts of you that were manipulated and taken advantage of and abused, those parts of you need to die and decompose. Because I'm getting, that's not you. That is you in an unfair, unhealthy dynamic. And so reclaim your power and remember that the feelings that you're feeling are a reflection of an unfair, unequal, oppressive, sometimes violent, abusive dynamic that you got caught in, that you experienced, right? But you can emerge anew. So don't ever think that it's not going to end, right? Or this is the ending of your belief in love, belief in life, belief in people, all this stuff. They're like, no, 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 no. But those parts of you that are believing that are part of the twisting of the mental and emotional damage from the narcissist. And so you need to really do whatever it takes to give yourself like a new life, a new lease on life. So they're saying like when people transform in this way, it could look like a total transformation. Do you change the entire way that you look? Do you move? Do you, change jobs or change careers? Like they're kind of saying like, give yourself a second life. And they're also saying that in some cases, like the damage of these relationships is so strong and this like rebirth, this transformation is so big that it could feel like a second lifetime in a lifetime. Or they're saying multiple transformations in one lifetime, depending on how many times you go through this. They're saying that's okay. You can change as many times as you need to heal and move forward and move on and keep going after you get caught in these dynamics. Because they're saying like on a level of like, force, like energetically, the dynamic killed you, right? It killed these parts of you. They're kind of saying the innocence, like the purity, like the excitement, this like pure excitement or this pure joy that you may have felt, like it can really knock that stuff out of you. And so there's this regeneration process, and sometimes it needs to look like an entire life change. And they're saying, go for it, and they're saying like, it's not personal. And if you've experienced this so painfully, and there are people in your life, they're kind of saying they got caught up in the dynamic and maybe started choosing sides, and you feel bad about letting certain people go. Like for you, it's important to like let go of like the pain and the memories, because people remember you and have this snapshot of you in this dynamic and will continue to project and see you as that person. So you very well might need to clear house of all the people in your life who remind you of a person that you no longer want to be, of a person that someone that you're not becoming, someone different. So like the separate life thing might include cutting off people that you may feel a little bit guilty about. They're saying like getting rid of. But if there were mutual friendships and these mutual bonds and connections that were also a part of the dynamic one way or another, it kind of doesn't matter which side they took. But if they're holding on to this person that you were, if they're holding on to this vision of you, it's really hard for you to change and to grow. And they're saying like, you're ever changing and you have every right to change. You can change your scenery, change the environment, change your job, change your friends, change the characters in your life, change your partners, change your lovers. Like you can change anything you want, change yourself, right? So if you really don't want to be living the life of who you were, or if it's present, who you are in this dynamic, uprooting is really helpful, they're saying. Like one way or another, like change your world and the people in it so that you can enjoy your life and consider it like a rebirth. And just they're acknowledging like how big and impactful that type of transformation can become, and that in itself can be a little traumatizing, because you're going to have some kind of like a personality crisis or like identity crisis of just like, wait, I am changing, so I'm no longer that, I'm becoming this. And so they're saying, like, be gentle with yourself throughout the entire transition of it, however long or short it takes for you, however fast or slow you need to move through. But that is the way through. So they're just saying, like, you're not damaged, rotten fruit, but you can let the damage decompose and you can become anew in your life as many times as you have to. As many times as this thing happens, you know, and they're saying it happens a lot, and it happens to people a lot often. So, yeah, they're like, how many lives does it take to get it right? To not get hung up on the pain and suffering and let it ruin your entire life. They're like, don't let it ruin your entire life. Let it change it, you know, and like leave that past behind. Leave the past trauma of the relationship, the dynamic, the power struggle, the oppression, the violence, the abuse. Leave it in the past. Leave it behind you. And they're like, slam the door. Like, slam the door. You don't owe anybody anything. What's the most important message you need to know about narcissism? What's the most important message we need to know about narcissism? They're showing people pointing fingers at each other. This like blame game. It's like, and they're saying, like, go live your life. And part of the stagnancy is getting caught up in this blame game and like looking for it. And they're like, don't look for it. I mean, you're going to notice it. Like, once they're saying you sense it. Like, you don't need to go around pointing fingers and calling people narcissists. They're like, you don't have to play that game. Mm-mm. All you need to do is, when you sense it, when you feel it coming up for you, you just know. Take a break. Take a beat from this person. Take some space from this person. Once you know, but you do not need to go around calling it out. Because what they're saying is there's a lot of false masks calling it out who like are experiencing their own narcissism. And they're like, behold, look at yourself, right? Look at yourself in your relationship to power and dominance and power struggles and dynamics of power. They're like, there are clues about the spectrum of narcissism for each other, for each of us. So they're just saying, like, examine, like, victim, victimized, power struggle. The power struggle. Did you get off on the power struggle? Do you get off on that power struggle? Because they're saying, like, that's where to be responsible and acknowledge, have the acknowledgement that there is something about the dynamic or the power struggle. You liked it. You liked some aspect of it. Why? You're not at fault. It's not your fault. But they're saying, examine the part of you. Like, what was it? Because they're just saying, like, it started off as something pure and innocent. Like, you might have loved the control, looked like power, looked like confidence, looked like leadership. And you were attracted to that confidence and that power and that leadership, right? To be led. You know, someone's like, here, take my hand. And then they thrill ride, right? The joy ride, the thrill ride of someone in control. There's nothing wrong with that. They're saying, however, it got twisted. So your reason for being attracted is pure and innocent. And then, let's see, keep going. They're saying to be responsible. They're talking about like satiated, like being satiated and like following the breadcrumbs. What are you trying to show me? Like you kept thinking these little tiny breadcrumbs were going to lead to this big loaf of bread. There's like the dangled carrot. And the whole time, it's just the idea of them. It's what they spoke, how they spoke of themselves. They're kind of saying they put this thought bubble in your mind of like how great they are. They're saying grandiosity. Like they put this bubble, this thought bubble, this belief in your mind about them, an idea about them, and you believe them because you're like, oh, they're being honest. And then they had this energy of this power and this confidence that like kind of proved that it could be possible. So you believed it. But the breakdown and the breakthrough is that loaf of bread is invisible. Like it's breadcrumbs to an idea and a thought that doesn't exist. It came from like words. They're saying spells and thrills. And again, the ideas and the thoughts that were kind of planted into your head, the little seeds that were planted into your head. And so, yeah, the breadcrumbs, like there was never going to be anything beyond the breadcrumbs. So there's like the promise of the bread loaf, the thought bubble, this big bubble. And they're saying it's invisible, like in the mist. Doesn't exist, but the crumbs are real. Like the crumbs are real. That's real. But are you satiated? Like, are you satisfied with the crumbs? And they're like, you can make your own loaf of bread. Like, you can come up with your own ideas. You can find someone else who's like a whole feast, not just this one loaf of bread. Like, go find someone who has a feast on the table. And they're saying like they're more dynamic, like someone else. The feast is more dynamic. Interesting. The feast is more dynamic. Someone who has many facets, dynamic. They're saying oddly behavior. They're saying the narcissist is like trying to just get it right. Like just get it right. The performance. It's got to be like a perfect performance. And they're saying like they draw inspiration from like TV and movies. Like they learn like these characteristics, charisma, mannerism. So you might even see clues of them seeming like a movie, or like saying lines from a movie, or saying lines from movies or songs and things like that. They might speak to you. They're kind of saying like it's inauthentic from them, like it's not their words. They're kind of saying like the words are spoken through them from somebody else. It's like not their own, but like they've seen like, oh, the performance worked before, so I'm going to rework this performance for this new person. Interesting. Okay, that's another interesting perspective. But in this performance, it's a one-man show. There's only one person. And they like it that way. They want to be the only one for you. They want to be the only one, the one and only, the one. And so they will do whatever it takes to provide the thrills to make you believe that they are the one, so that you have this sole singular focus. You're the one. But you're not going to be enough for them, because they see how easy it is to manipulate you. And so they want someone else, someone in their mind, bigger, better, to give more focus. It's almost like working your way up a social ladder, where it's like the more of an audience that you come with, the more power that you come with, or the more attention, performance, audience you come with, the more desirable you are. So they're kind of like celebrity, politics, just anything on, like, I'm getting social media, TV, movies, these cinematic performances, theater. They're like anywhere where there's like focus. They're kind of saying it's like a commonplace, like commonplace breeding ground for, like, they're saying narcissistic behaviors. And they went back to the beginning, the opening message, me, exclamation point. Okay. So that was the Akashic Records on narcissism. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.